was wild.
But it's
Very
great to
wild.
meet you, and I want to
You
begin
as well.
our conversation with living through a pandemic the last 3.5 years. How did you get through it, and how has it changed you?
Well, so how did I get through it? Honestly, I got fired in the pandemic. And so that was a big shift. And by fired, my wife reminds me that I didn't get fired, I got let go, but like a whole lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And so that actually was the beginning of the leadership development company that I built, Leadwell. And so we now go and help mission driven leaders and organizations. So when I look at those 3.5 years in the pandemic and how it changed me, it was the time and started the process where I thought I was going in a complete direction toward kind of success, achievement, promotion, and continuing with an organization that I honestly had wrapped up a lot of my identity in. And so got let go and spent a good 6 months figuring out, what am I going to do? How am I going to be able to contribute, to provide for my family, to serve, to lead? And landed on building a leadership development company to help other leaders go and do that and help them in their organizations. And so it drastically changed the direction of my life for the absolute better, even through the pain and the struggle that it was for us and for everybody else.
But it has to feel good to be invested in something that's 100% you now.
Mm,
After all of that time of putting yourself into something that was run by someone else, which you kind of touched on a little bit,
yeah.
it has to feel refreshing at this point, I would imagine.
It is exhilarating. It's frightening. It's exhausting, and it is absolutely freeing. Kind of like you said, right? To have something that's built that you get to be a part of and lead as you want to, and then also the the thrill and the fear of being like, oh, this is going exactly as I'm making this go.
Yeah.
Right? There's that both and that's just always there. But yes, it has created so many opportunities for my family and I. It's really given us the opportunity to build a team of people, to travel the country and go work with organizations, to carve out time in ways that we hadn't had before as a family. So we relocate for basically 6, 7 weeks of the year to Michigan and spend a significant amount of time with family. And I work from there while we're up there. And
Yeah.
the rest of the time we're down in Houston, Texas. So it has
Excellent.
created a tremendous amount of opportunity for us.
It's interesting when I think about coaching. It used to be one of those things where you would hear like the rich and famous say, I got a coach for this. And us regular blue collar people were like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
We're trying to make sure we got batteries in the flashlight. So my question to you is this. It's become more of the volume of coaching and leadership coaching has really gone up, and it's attainable for almost anybody out there. And it's almost
Yeah.
something that's very necessary to get your direction. So what I'm going to do is to get to the brass tacks of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids looks up and says, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that child?
That's awesome. I would say this. I'd say, okay, so your mommy and daddy, do they work outside the home? Do they go somewhere where they do some work for other people? Yeah, 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 yeah. Right. They'd all give me that. And then I'd say, awesome. Here's what I do. I come in to help mommy and daddy so that they can take care of their people, so that they can do great work, and so that they can provide excellent service for everybody that they get to work with. And I do that for mommy and daddy's workplace too. So we go in and we work with everybody at mommy and daddy's workplace so that they can be aligned. Because isn't it fun when we're all going in the same direction, having the same amount of fun, playing the same game? Yes, right. And then I would say, okay, and then isn't it more fun when like everybody's nice to each other and we all get along and we can have good conversations? Yep. Well, we help them do that. And then isn't it good when you can think about all the stuff you get to look forward to? Yeah, we help them do that too. And
Yeah.
so that's how I would describe the fact that we work with individual leaders to help them grow and transform their own leadership, but also with organizations, aligning teams, uh, building healthy, cohesive leadership teams, and then developing leaders all throughout the organization.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
A teacher. I
Oh,
wanted to be a teacher when I was in the third grade. So I had a great teacher. Her name was Mrs. McCain. I've had great teachers all throughout my life and in my family. We're a teacher family. So I was planning on going to be a teacher. I did go be a teacher. I went to be a principal because that's what I thought I was going to do, be a principal. And I had a drastic change where I was feeling that call for more of the leadership and business. It's like every time you go pick up a book or want to sign up for a conference, I'd be like, what about this leadership thing? What about
Yeah,
Maxwell? What about what Lencioni's doing? What about this, that, or the other? And then I realized school's wonderful. I also want to test this desire to put a service, a product out there and do some of this business stuff with people. And so um, that switch was tough. But what I've realized is that you can be a teacher no matter where you are. You're just teaching different people different things. And so
absolutely.
that's kind of how I approach it today.
So obviously teaching is in your lineage, your DNA,
Yeah.
but more than that, you're helping people be leaders and you have to give a lot of yourself. How did those seeds get put into you from, when you were a child all the way up into today?
Oh, uh, well, I mean, I tell everybody my father was raising me to be a 40-year-old man since I was 12 years old. And my dad he's a leader and he is a teacher. And so those little conversations in the car where you'd be driving and you'd leave an event and you're like, Dad, like that guy that was super mean and bossy and kind of jerked everybody around, like, was he in charge? And, you know, father's wisdom when it comes. And he says something like, not something like he said exactly, John, you don't have to be the loudest one in the room to be a leader. And that's the first conversation I remember with my dad talking about leadership. And I was 12 years old. And from there, it just kind of continued to snowball into captains of sports teams, starting clubs in college, always finding my way to help organize, align people. I love to do problem solving and get a whole bunch of people around a problem that we can solve. The bigger and more impactful, the better.
Yeah.
And so that was what kind of started taking me that way. And then when people started coming and asking questions, that's when I started realizing that I also really like talking about it and teaching it, and that I might have a knack for this thing beyond just, ooh, I was promoted, so now I'm a leader. But perhaps I actually enjoy the process and the nuts and bolts and kind of what's behind it that allows any of us to be able to do it well, taking
Yeah.
care of people and focusing on producing some great results.
So who's been a hero for you in your life?
Um, my father has been a hero. My mother has been a hero. They're tremendous influences and heroes in my life. I often think of my grandfather as well. His name's Art Beachy, and he's one of those where like he passed away years ago. I was in the seventh grade, and people just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And the wake was 2 days, and the lines were like 8 hours long of us just being there with lines of people coming through. He was one of those that everybody knew him, but he didn't need to be known by anybody. He just kind of went and served people and did his thing. And you learned so much then about all that my grandfather did in and throughout his community. Where he was a volunteer fireman and he was on the bowling league 77 years ago, it seemed like. And then people would show up and be like, I remember your grandfather. So he lived up in Chicago and
Yeah.
I'm down here in Texas and I'm coaching a high school soccer team. And I'm sitting at our like celebration dinner. And this is 20 years after he had passed away. I'm sitting next to this gentleman who's probably in his 80s. His name's Jack. And we start talking and he was saying, where'd you go to school? And he's like, Concordia River Forest. And he was asking me where I went. And I turned to him. And I was like, oh, Concordia River Forest. My grandfather went there. And he turned and he's like, how old's your grandfather? And I told him he's passed away. Da, da, da. He goes, was your grandfather Art Beachy? I said, yeah, in fact, he was. And this gentleman hasn't seen my grandfather in over 50 years, played college football with him and was
Wow.
his guard. My grandfather was the quarterback. And he said, I'd do anything for your grandfather. I
Wow.
would protect him with my life. He's a great man. I was like, this is 50 years later. Like, that's the type of person my grandfather was. He's a
Wow.
tremendous hero for me.
Wow, that's wild. So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Goodness. You're bringing all the hard ones today.
We're just trying to wake up here.
Yeah, right? Somebody who could I meet and spend time with today? Um, I think it would be pretty amazing to be able to spend some time with Louis Giglio. He's a pastor and he started this entire movement called Passion. And he just has this wonderful spirit, this great energy, but a huge vision. And he's a big visionary, but a practical, tactical leader as well. And so I
Yeah.
think that'd be really fun to sit down and have some coffee with him.
Yeah. So the bottom line, the cornerstone of what you're doing is that you want people to be successful. What's
Hmm.
one of your favorite success stories so far? The one that always puts a smile on your face?
So this was, oh man, there's too many of those to think about, but
Yeah.
I'll go to one that that really makes me smile, and it is the fact that when I was working in a not-for-profit organization here in Houston, it was a large one, and we did a lot of work here locally, but it also had global reach. And I was fortunate enough, I had the opportunity, and was able to perform in a way that I got 7 promotions in 6 years and went from kind of a local program manager to vice president of innovation and operations. And the path that I always tell people was I was really kind and worked well with people, but also solved big, hairy financial problems and turned those around and did it in a way where people didn't hate us. I was like, that was pretty much my path to doing that. But the thing that that I'm most proud of, that I think most fondly of, and that I consider the most success is the amount of people that were promoted, whether it was internal to the organization or they went and took great jobs that were a part of my team.
Yeah.
I think that that was so much fun. So they stayed around, they were promoted into different positions. And when they left, more often than not, it was on their own accord, and it was to do something that they were trying to go do at a higher level of leadership and responsibility. And so that's the fun that I think about.
Yeah. Well, all of these are building blocks. Everything that you do has all these building blocks that build into what you want to
Yeah.
be and what your clients you want them to become. So what is it that gets you up every day? What is it that motivates you? What is it that fuels who you are that not only helps people but helps you evolve?
Uh, I think that I've been given, like many of us have, just a tremendous amount of gifts and talents, and I want to use those to serve other people. And so when I think about leadership and the amount of influence that one person or an organization can have on another individual's life and on the trajectory of their life, being able to help somebody do that well is this amazing waterfall where if we serve one, we could actually impact 10. And
Yeah.
if we serve an organization, they're going to go and serve thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And if we can do it in a way that is positive, that allows them to walk in purpose, treat people well, and perform tremendously to create results that really help everybody profit, everybody involved, them, the people they work with, the people they serve. That's what we want to do.
So you've obviously had to pivot and change and modify your life, especially with this career change you just went through. So if you were to have a
Yeah.
dream tonight, you ran into a much younger version of you, let's say senior in high school, you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained. What advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Don't worry about what other people think.
Yep,
It doesn't
I get it.
matter. It really doesn't. Don't worry about that. Take it into consideration in terms of what's the real valuable feedback, right? Always remain coachable, but don't get worked up on whether they're judging you, what they think about this, that, or the other thing. That in the end, all of that kind of goes away. And if you are going and moving forward, trying to do good, right, life-giving things for other people, you'll be just fine. But but don't worry about the perception and the judgment and what other people are going to say.
And the key to that is your grandfather. I mean, I'm sure his philosophy was, he's doing what he's doing, and look what happened. I used to have a boss that used to always say, um, "Bees are attracted to honey, so be nice." You know,
Yeah,
that's
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 right.
kind of the bottom line. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. One of the stories of my grandfather is somebody came in, and it was a time where they were going to give him a pretty hefty donation. It was a 5-figure donation. This was years ago, where 5 figures was like a 6-figure gift today, right? In the
yeah.
not-for-profit world. And they walked in, they said, "I'm going to give you this money, and here's what I want you to do with it." And he said, "No." He said, "We don't need that. I really need it for this. So you can keep your money." Like I said, it was big. It
Yeah.
was probably it was a good gift back then. So the story is that that gentleman left, came back 2 weeks later, wrote him a bigger check, and said, "Do whatever you want with it, Art. You'll put it where you need it." Right? And it's
Wow.
like it's some of those things of like you have to stick with the mission, the principles, the values, and don't worry about that. Don't worry about some of those little things, and it'll work out as long as you stay true to those things and stay in a path that's serving people, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what he was. He's saying that's not going to be what helps this place the most. I
Yeah.
need money, but I need it for this. So if you want to
Yeah.
do that, great. If not, love you anyways, but you can keep your money.
Yeah. Wow. That takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
So of all the things that you've done so far in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I have a wonderful marriage to my wife Megan, and we have three wonderful kiddos. And I would say that that's probably the thing that I'm the most proud of.
Excellent. So all of these people in your life have a perception of you. There's pockets, family, friends, clients, colleagues,
Yeah.
but you're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Ooh, that is a great question. And I would tell you that at the end of the day, I'm John, and that means that I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to try to operate with integrity. We're going to have some fun, uh, but we're not going to take serious things too serious. We're going to be playful along the way. But I think that I have the unique ability to be able to relate and to connect with people where we might just be a little bit different than ourselves, and that's one of the things that I continue to lean into, where sometimes we're always stuck in our own pockets. I like to be a little bit of a connection chameleon, being able to find ways to connect with folks, and so that's probably one of the ways that I hope that people see me and that I see myself, is being able to find a way to connect with someone, even if it doesn't appear like we have anything in common.
So, final hard question here.
All right.
If you could get into a time machine, we get off the phone, get off the Zoom call, a time machine pulls up in front of your house, and you can go anywhere in history and see one event with your own eyes. Where are you going?
I'm going to Rome in 33 AD to be there for the crucifixion of a Nazarene named Jesus. I think it's one of the most impactful moments in history, and it would be heartbreaking and hard, and I would want to be there
Yeah.
to fully experience that.
Wonderful. So, John, if anyone wants to reach out, hire you, learn more about you, anything, where do they go?
Yeah.
Best way to do it.
The best way to do it is head to leadwell.com. That's leadwell.com. And if you want more stories like we were talking about here today, you can grab the book. It is definitely my personal experience, success, and struggle with a process to help others redefine their servant leadership. And if you go to redefineyourservantleadership.com, you will get way too much of me, but you'll also get a book and a process that can help you lead with strength, resilience, and a way to serve people.
Wonderful. Jon Kidwell, thank you so much for your time today. Best of luck. Have a great 2024.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I wish you the best.
Yes, sir.